Greetings and salutations. Hope everyone's having a wonderful afternoon today. In case you missed it, yesterday in what I had originally called the Mystery Mega Stream, but has since been retitled to be accurate. The first part of this, what we're looking at, is called the Retro Read-Along, Bill Wilkerson's Original Known World Documents. This is part 2. We are starting with the second volume, Monsters and Treasure. These are a whole bunch of house rules for Tom Moldvay's, and I forget the other individuals, Lawrence Schick's original known world campaign from somewhere in the environs of 1976 to 1979. Bill Wilkerson was a player in this game, and he was kind enough to share with someone who goes by the name of Travis on the Piazza bulletin boards a whole bunch of material. That material was photocopied and collated, and then somebody else, see if I can give credit looking back here on the thread, somebody else, Shannon Appelkline, was great enough to make an OCR PDF, which is what I'm looking at, that has everything, I think, except the adventure in it. Hey, Walk in the Path. Thanks for joining. Let me know if I'm clipping at all. I played back the stream a little bit from yesterday, and it felt like I was clipping, or I was right there at the kind of like clipping edge. So I did some tweaking today, and pushing and pulling the sliders, try to get the sound a little bit better, give myself a little headroom. So hopefully that's coming through. But if there are any audio or video issues that pop up, please let me know in the stream so I can fix them. This is pretty much where I left off, so I'm just going to keep going from here. We finished off Volume 1. It took me about 2 hours. We'll see how long it takes us to get through the second part. Brian Smith says, sounds looks good. Excellent. The mallards on the lampshade are nice and crisp. Very good. Yeah, this is my grandmother's house, so there's a lot of vintage stuff around. So yeah, I have a fond place in my heart for those mallards. Very old school. Oh, so the first thing, right off the bat, we get standardized dragons table. Percent chance of talking, being asleep, spell use, and level. Just says it's awesome. I'm glad you like it. I like it. It'd be one of those things that'd be great. I don't think that they'd be worth much money, and something like someone's going to come and say, oh, these are worth millions of dollars. But I'd be curious to know more about them, and if I could take them to what's that? I forget that show. Was it whatever that America Antiques Roadshow? Just tell me. Someone could tell me about them a bit. This definitely seems like they're from the 40s or 50s, and yeah, I like them. They've been around here longer than I've been alive. So we have one thing that's interesting about this dragon table right off the bat. We've got the first one on the list is gray dragons, which I don't recall seeing before. Also rainbow, golden. Well, rainbow, golden I'd seen before. Golden showed up in either in the white box or in one of the early books. We do get golden dragons. We got some of the other ones. We got white, brass, black, copper, green, bronze, blue, silver, red, golden, and then rainbow. Might be interesting. I'm curious if there was some master list of a whole bunch of totally cool dragon colors and variations that people used. Even I'm not even necessarily from back in the day, but just in general, it'd be nice to see. We have gray dragons. So I'm not going to go through the whole table, but gray dragons do have a fire cone if they breathe fire. Let's see. Well, the repulsion. Brian Smith looking at a repulsion breath. Ooh, where's repulsion breath? Where's that? Oh, there it is. Oh, that's the bronze dragon gets lightning or repulsion. Does that mean it gets to choose, or do we use this table and we pick one or the other? But yeah, that is cool. Magic users can appear as animals. Blues, magic users can also appear as animals. Silver, so blues, deserts, which I think is pretty much standard. Silver, aerial domains. Magic users can appear as humans. They get a cold or gas cloud. Rainbow can get anything. They're the rarest dragon. Oh, interesting. So I'll read this about rainbow dragons. The rarest dragon, rainbows will appear gray, high-level neutrals or neutral clerics. So that's kind of an interesting touch. I would like more of this, actually. I think there were some really nice germs of ideas here that, I mean, look, this wasn't meant to be a product. This was meant just as a document. But this idea that different, we talk about different ways that, especially in the old rules, that alignment was used. The concept that you might not see to their fullest. They might not fully reveal themselves, some creature, or they might appear differently if you're not of a certain alignment, is really intriguing. At some high level neutral, like, oh, that's a rainbow dragon. Everyone else is looking at, what are you, crazy? That's just gray. And like, nah, that's a rainbow. Kind of cool. I think you could do a lot with that, actually. Draconium. I'm not sure what that means. Is that some kind of, looks like it's some kind of currency. Gray and white, 5 times AU? I don't know what that means. Black 10 times, copper and green 15 times. AU, is that supposed to be, was that silver, gold? What's the atomic symbol for gold? Is gold AR? Silver AU, or is this, I'm sure they don't mean astronomical units, which is some massively large unit of measure. I'm not sure what Draconium and AU are. Gold, okay, Brian Smith says gold. All right, so they probably mean gold there. So Draconium, depending on the color, has, I guess, is worth a lot of gold. So 1 golden and rainbow Draconium is equal to 30 times the gold, whatever the gold is. So 10 Draconium is 300 gold. I mean, is it a currency? Is it something else? I don't know. Is it an element? Unfortunately, since this is, and I think we're gonna see this a lot, where we're gonna find these things, and maybe someone else will pull out and say, oh yeah, Draconium was this thing that came from a book, or came from whatever. But the interesting thing in this document is there's a bit of a deciphering process, because this is not meant as some kind of reference. This is something that you would hand out, and they hand it out in their home game to their players. So this is more of almost looking like the index at the back of the book. Or if you took all the tables, here's Appendix A, all these tables or whatever, A, B, C, and you hand it up to somebody, and they don't have the rest of the book because they don't need it. Because if they had a question of, hey, what the heck is Draconium, the GM would tell them, or they would explain it before they brought it up. So we're just seeing these things, and we have to kind of suss out or take guesses or look at, because there seems like a lot of stuff, like everybody's home games, comes from other cultural things, mostly, at this era, books and movies, and well, some TV. TV's been around for a while. So we don't know what Draconium is. At least I don't know. But if somebody knows, Brian Smith says there's a neutral toad god and a chaos toad god. Missed opportunity for a lawful one for the toad triumvirate. Absolutely. Oh, you're ahead of me, Brian Smith. Reading ahead. Apparently, we have a couple of toad gods. We have a mix of, well, all over the place. We have got Ra, Osiris, Horus, Anubis, but then also Vishnu, Heimdall, Mitra, Asura, Poseidon, Bast, Diana, Toad God, the protector of Theatis' harbor, Geb, Thoth, Bes, Isis, Tefnut, Pan, Sylvanus, Frey, Vulcan, Thor, Balder, Odin, Frigga. We also have Set, Bel, Ares, Apesh, Kali, Hera. Interesting, Hera is chaos. I don't know if I would have thought Hera was chaos, but here she's the goddess of intrigues, which definitely seems chaotic. Loki, there's a gargoyle god. Ariok, Zyombarg, Mabelroad, Pagana. You get Cthulhu, Sathagwa, another toad god. Erlik, and Ahriman. Oh, I guess Ahriman, Malik, Taos, Beelzebub, basically your demons or devils/demons. These look like we're getting into some monsters. Valkyries. Basically, this is like a monster manual, like right out of the monster manual in terms of how these are laid out. I feel like that can't be coincidence. Well, Monster Manual came out in what, 78, 79? So it would have been after this. I don't know if in unfortunately I don't have my books about to see when they adopted the Monster Manual layout. If it was in Holmes or something else they might have access to, but it's pretty interesting that this is so standard. So we get Hoovers. I'm wondering how many joke ones we get, because the first thing I thought with Hoover was, please tell me it's a walking vacuum cleaner that's just going to hoover things up. All right, so let's read the Hoover, because I am not familiar with that at all. A Hoover looks rather like a walking cornucopia with the small end open. There are several bulges near the small end, which are the eyes, ears, and brain case. I think this maybe is like a vacuum cleaner. The Hoover generally employs a natural mantle of stealth when not attacking. This virtually always surprising its enemies. It is a vacuum cleaner. The Hoover sucks air in through its small end with great force and attacks by focusing its intake on any creature within 40 feet. If hit, the target is sucked through the Hoover and flung out the large end, sustaining 1 to 100 points of sonic damage and stunning 1 to 4 melee rounds. In addition, the shriek of air rushing through causes all within hearing range to suffer sonic damage, the amount of damage doubling each melee round as the shriek gets louder, starting at 2 points and then going 2, 4, 8, etc. The Hoover will attack anyone trying to steal its treasure. Otherwise, it's not especially aggressive, though it is sensitive to loud noises other than its own. It totally is a vacuum. Here I thought, when I saw cornucopia, I said, oh, maybe not. Then I started reading a little further. I'm like, wait a minute. That is funny. That is so much vacuum cleaner. Yeah, you just get, let's see, where it says you get flung out, you get 1 to 100. It just says flung out the large end, so who knows how far you go, where you land. But yeah, you get sucked in the short and small end, flung out the large end, you take out 1 to 100 points of sonic damage. I mean, that's a brutal, boy, talking about some swingy results. That is funny. It's got standard magic resistance, got a mantle of stealth, has the special attack, the shriek. Only has that one attack. Whoa, 20 hit dice. Armor class -2. Oof, can you imagine getting 2 of those? What if you get 2 of them and they're on either side of you and they're just flinging you kind of at each other? That would be an interesting encounter. Brian Smith says, I've never had my PCs flung any significant distance, but what a fun way to transition out of combat that would be. Yeah, it is. I mean, assuming you survive. I mean, granted, who knows when you're... I'd love to see where the Hoover resides on your encounter tables, because that 1 to 100, it could seem fun, except for the fact that you roll a 98 or something and it just kills you. I mean, you've got you don't have that many hit points in these old versions of the game. So I don't know how many hit points you've got, but there's like a 50% chance you're probably dead from the sonic damage before you even hit the ground, wherever it is you hit the ground. So it could be fun, but it could also be a nightmare. We have a quick set. I'm not sure. I'm not. And just by the way, I apologize in advance to the folks who are just students of the manuals. I've read them all. I have them all. I have not had them memorized. They fly in and out of my brain. So, I'm not going to be that expert at like, oh, the quick set first appeared in Monster Manual 2 or da-da-da-da-da. Like, you got me. I don't keep them memorized. So I'm not sure how many of these. I'm just reading the ones that kind of seem interesting to me. Shout out if there's one that's interesting to you that maybe I skip over, or if you recognize where this thing comes from, or you recognize what it might have turned into, because some of these, I think, it seems like we already read in some of those forum posts in the last stream, there's definitely stuff from these books that ended up in actual materials later on, because the guys who were running this game did end up being TSR writers for TSR and produced game stuff. Most famously, probably Tom Moldvay, who wrote, the basic part of Basic Expert. Brian Smith says, probably the 36.3% chance you land in spongy land or water. Maybe. I guess, it'd be interesting, because the damage is from the sonic boom. So you have no idea if it's supposed to be some kind of comically long throw, or if it's just you land 10 feet away, smack into whatever surface. We don't know. It would be fun to play with that. That would have been one of those things that maybe you say, well, that's kind of a little bit of a missed opportunity. Maybe cap the damage a little bit lower and then have some falling damage or something. How far you fell and kind of split it up a little bit, but we don't know. So, all right, the Quixit. Armor class 2/4, 14 hit dice. Number of attacks 1, damage 3 to 18. Ooh, they got a slime spew. All right, let's read the description. Outwardly resembling one of the ceratopsian dinosaurs, the Quixit is actually a construct from the Chaos Labs. Ooh, what are the Chaos Labs? Its single horn is hollow, and when the Quixit taps into an other dimensional sea of slime, it shoots out from the horn under pressure as far as 40 feet. Within 3 seconds upon contact with air, this slime hardens into the approximate rigidity and weight of concrete. A Quixit can shoot forth as much as 100 cubic feet of slime per melee round, a volume equal to a cube of about 4.64 feet per side. I love the precision. 100 cubic feet per melee round, and oh, by the way, that's about a cube, not 4.5, or approximately 4.5, 4.64 feet. If you needed to factor that and figure that out, how crucial it might be to your particular encounter, 4.64 feet per side. Once prey is sufficiently encumbered, this carnivorous monster will move in to finish it off with its sharp beak, bites for 3 to 18. Its saliva contains a substance which dissolves the hardened lime. A Quixit's head is protected by a great horny shield like the true ceratopsians, AC2. The rest of the body is covered with scaly skin, AC4. If killed while shooting forth slime, there's a 50% chance that the dimensional door will remain open after death, and the slime will continue to spew out until the horn is plugged or there is no more room. Whoo boy. Well, it's kind of like a Triceratops or maybe a Protoceratops, except it's got a hollow horn that slimes out essentially Quickcrete. The Quickcrete doesn't actually do any damage, but yeah, it's gonna harden you and tie you down. That's pretty good. I like the idea that if you kill it while it's spewing, it just might keep spewing. Ryan Smith says, "What a dang mess." Yeah, that feels like a tough time. Heck, I would just probably give it a chance anyway. That like all your bowels relax upon death. That there's just some percent chance that even if it's not spewing, when you kill it, it'll just open up. Whatever valve that's connected will just become slack in death, and just that will do it. It seems like just the idea of it dying and this spew of Quickcrete coming out for who knows how long, making the room a hazard or wherever you happen to be a hazard, just seems to be too good to limit to the small chance that it's killed while spewing. We have arrow urchins. These are very rare. Armor class 0, 16 hit dice. Wow, so far all these things are super strong baddies. Not familiar. I mean, urchins as far as I think of street punks or something, but I don't think that's what these are. My first thought, arrow urchin, okay, it's some kind of street punk with a crossbow or a short bow, but nope. Something else. The arrow urchin resembles a giant land-roving sea urchin. Ooh, I like that. It moves by rolling on its spines, which are 4 feet long, and jut out from its 2-foot spherical body in all directions. These spines are sharp and poisonous, so long weapons such as spears, polearms, etc. must be used by any attempting to attack this creature. The most fearsome aspect of the arrow urchin is that, as its name implies, it can fire up to 4 spines per melee round up to 75 feet in distance. When they hit, these spines do 1d12 points of damage. The victim must save versus poison, and, worst of all, there's a 20% chance that the projectile is a spore spine. A spore spine can be neutralized only by Finger of Death, Remove Curse, magical or clerical, Death Spell, Limited Wish, and Wish. If not neutralized within 3 melee rounds, the spore will germinate, exploding into a full-sized arrow urchin using the substance and up to 128 hit points of its host. Characters thus killed cannot be raised as their entire substance has been incorporated into the urchin. Arrow urchins will usually attack as this is their means of propagation. Holy cow. What I like most here, Brian Smith says 128 hit points of damage. But I think what I like most about that is what if you have more than that? Does that mean there's some bit of you that they didn't use? And that your head's kind of hanging off the side and this arrow urchin is now scuttling around? I mean, that's brutal. 4-foot long spines, 2-foot long spherical body. So it's not all that huge. I mean, the spines are by far the biggest part of the thing. Wow, but it can fire them 4 per melee round up to 75 feet away. And they don't say how many they can do, because so presumably they can just keep launching them out there. And man, that spore spine, only finger of death, remove curse, death spell, limited wish and wish. Wow. Don't waste keep your high level spells if you're hanging around arrow urchins. I think it would be, to me though, this is a really cool creature that I would love to use in my game. I would tone it way down. Maybe I might have lesser arrow urchins, but I'd love to have, the parties kind of looking at the shore, the beach, and these kind of urchins start, maybe with the tide, start scuttling out from the shallows, and maybe they're a bit smaller. I kind of like the idea that you need pole arms and things, and I like the idea of them having the spear attacks. But, man, damage 1 to 12 plus poison plus 20% chance that you're practically doomed. Tough. Oh, that's a good idea. Brian Smith says, fun to corral them or drop them on some baddie camp. Yeah, I mean, if you can be clever and get some of these. Now, keep in mind, seeing hit dice. So you're going to need some, just the corralling part might be a feat in and of itself. And they can shoot those things 75 feet away, and they want to fight because that's how they propagate their species. So I don't know how you're going to do it, though. In this game, you've got high-level sleep spells, so maybe you could sleep some of them and, figure out a way to levitate them and drop them on somebody, for sure. We have harrows. I'm not familiar with harrows either. This is cool because these things are all new to me. These are aliens from a world of metallic magnetic life. It is uncertain how the harrows first came to our world. Made entirely of ferrous metal, their life force and movement is magnetic in origin, and they are surrounded by a powerful magnetic field which tends to make magic spells go awry. They feed by both absorbing the magnetic auras of dying creatures and absorbing iron and steel directly into their central body, a very slow process. Extended out in front of the harrow are the 8 rolling, razor-sharp discs from which it derives its name. The discs are about 3 feet in diameter and revolve on 10-foot-long axles, which can extend to 20 feet to give the harrow a wider field of attack. When the axle is extended, there's nearly 3 feet between each disc, making attack in this mode at -4, as there is a greater chance of creatures slipping between the discs. Creatures not killed by the discs in the harrow's headlong charge must then face being crushed by its massive rear cylinder, which is 10 feet wide and 4 feet in diameter, which resembles that of a steamroller. The harrow's body is rather car-shaped, with 2 revolving sensors atop its forepart that resemble radar dishes. With these, it senses prey by detecting their living magnetic auras. A harrow can throw a triple-strength magnetize spell, actually an extension of its field, which will freeze all armored creatures into immobility unless they make their save versus magic. If you're in chainmail, you get your save at +4. A magnetized spell thrown on a harrow will stop it for 1 to 3 melee rounds. It is unaffected by paralysis and all empathic spells, and cold does only half damage. None if a save is made. When killed, a harrow will stop dead in its tracks, and its magnetic field dissipates, and its parts freeze up. I feel like this is a reference to something, but I don't know what. It's got like not a dump truck, but I feel like the back is a cylinder, kind of like some kind of gas truck. It's got radar dishes. Reminds me of what was Doctor Who's companion, K9. But then it's got these discs. I feel like somebody closer to the time, and maybe somebody still will look at, the harrow, it's kind of a play on this. I feel like I'm missing it. I feel like it's right there on the tip. And then I'll see a picture or something later, and someone will jog it in my memory. But certainly an interesting creature. Just can't tell quite what it's supposed to be. The Kraken, and here we have some parenthetical. I wish there were more of these. Inspiration from Merritt's Dwellers in the Mirage. That's right. I was going to say we're not Clash of the Titans, but this is, or this is prior to that movie. Terrence says, Killdozer. I don't know, maybe. I'd have to look at a picture. Unknown. So this Kraken is a giant other dimensional octopoid who materializes in a swirling cloud. 50-foot sphere, all within must save versus confusion. Its intention is to grasp beings and pull them back into its own dimension, or kill them and suck up their souls. This is very Cthulhu-ish, I feel like. Almost like that creature at the end of the first Hellboy movie. The tentacles are AC2, 3 HD each, but the Kraken's body is -6 due to being only partly in our dimension and has 15 hit dice. If attacked ethereally or in its own dimension, it is AC2 also. If a tentacle hits, the victim takes 1 to 12 points of damage and is enwrapped and dragged 10 feet towards the Kraken each melee round. The tentacles are 25 feet long, and destroyed tentacles will be replaced in 1 turn, aka 10. Yeah, so there's definitely, whatever they're doing, because we can see here that 1 turn is equivalent to 10 melee rounds. So it's their melee rounds is not the same as 1 combat turn, which we kind of discovered in the last stream, or at least sort of teasing out. I can't remember if it's chainmail or something. I think chainmail has something like that, where you can have multiple melee rounds in 1 combat turn. I don't know if it made into Holmes or if there's any other references to that. So if you remember it, you recall, let me know. Let's see. If the creature itself is killed, its body returns to its own dimension. There's a 40% chance any creature within 10 feet of it will be sucked along with the swirling cloud. A Kraken can be gated in or summoned if the proper spell is known. Those killed by 1 cannot be raised due to lack of a soul. All right. And these aren't even the new monsters, apparently. So we have notes on new monsters. We've got air sharks. We had land sharks. I don't think they'd made their debut yet. Here we have air sharks. Ravenous, bloated, aerial facsimiles of sea sharks. Actually, supple, armored dirigibles. They have huge flukes in their tails, and air jets similar to a squid's for propulsion. Their mouths are always open except when snapping at prey. The mouth is the air intake for the jets. They are inflated with self-electrolyzed hydrogen. Well, that's interesting. Brian Smith says, there seems to be a theme of monster freezes you, then kills you, or something epic happens when it dies, or both. Yeah, though I think that's actually not... I mean, when you look at a lot of predators of types, they do look at a lot of things like that, right? The snake bites you, paralyzes you, and then swallows you. The bugs do that too, right? The spider bites you or paralyzes you, wraps you up, sucks out your innards, or melts them down, or whatever happens. So I think they're taking their cues from the natural world, which I'm sure has lots and lots of those in the different kingdoms. We'll see if it holds true. But yeah, that definitely has been, those creatures had some kind of, you don't want to get hit. Even if you dodge that, they have something secondary. And yeah, and by the way, when it dies, you might want to stand back. We have some giant ant lions. We've got the banshees. We've got banths, aka Barsoomian lions. Birds of doom. Come on, who doesn't love a good bird of doom? The birds of doom sit upon the shoulders of a mysterious one-eyed wanderer, and those who behold them at first appearance will have bad luck for 1 to 12 turns. Those who avoid looking at them will be permitted to ask the wanderer 1 question each, which he will answer truthfully, if perhaps obscurely. So I guess this is kind of Odin. Sounds like that's Odin wandering around. I forget the names of the ravens, but that would make sense. We've got a crimson fungus. Dull red. If burnt, the fumes have a 1/3 chance of causing temporary insanity for 1 turn. Panic, roll to see if stay, run, attack. If walked through, it has a 1/3 chance of sticking to any object, which must then be discarded. Ooh, gosh. On contact with flesh, it leaches blood. Can be destroyed by blood or alcohol. So we don't know what leeching blood looks like. Maybe that's a point a turn? Something? I don't know. It's interesting because, the burning it has something different. And then if you walk through it, it has something different. And then there's... Interesting that it says if it sticks to any object, which must then be discarded. Why? if I have a shield and it comes into contact with the crimson fungus, why must I discard my shield? Not sure. Other than that, I'm just spreading it around, and then the potentiality for contacting myself with it or something. But maybe I want to. Maybe I coat my shield with the stuff, and then I can try to jab an enemy with it and let it leach their blood. Brian Smith reading ahead. Yeah, we have dire Corbies, a powerful 6-foot raven with dagger-like claws and an evil disposition. Yes, they're not saying it's of the chaotic alignment, but yes, evil disposition. We have doppelgangers. We know doppelgangers. Dust devils. Energy fields. Are these seem like are these alive? These near invisible force fields can only be detected on a 1 or 2. They can be seen from the corner of the eye as a golden glow. Electric shock fields hit characters with metal armor on a 1 or 2. Unarmored characters on a 1. Magical shock fields will hit a cleric on a 1 or a magic user on a 1 or 2. And you get some aging effects. Doesn't say if they're alive or not. Terrence says, the Crimson Fungus, my new superhero name. It's a good one. Definitely something that would be, the Tick. I could definitely see an episode of the Tick. The Tick versus the Crimson Fungus. Fox women can appear in any one of 3 forms: human, female, fox, or a seductive combination of both, parenthetically, a vixen. They attract like Lamia, but their purpose is usually only to charm and enslave as many men as possible into their service. Their power does not affect women. We do get Giganto Giganthropithicus, which is essentially a giant Gila monsters. Gremlins, larger and nastier imps. Every 10 gremlins can cast a limited wish type spell, which can have extremely unfortunate results for its target. Ooh, so you probably want to leave those gremlins alone then. Gremlins have a very cruel and twisted sense of humor. Okay, we got more quote-unquote new monsters. I felt like the ones that they didn't present as new were newer to me than the ones they are presenting as new. Brian Smith says, the cool thing on those doppelgangers, they want to merge with the PCs they mimic. That's a gruesome, creepy twist. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go up and check that. I kind of skipped over because they were just regular. All right, so let's see this. Doppelgangers. A duplicate of a character who then seeks to merge with that character. They will rush a party to contact their double. Oh my gosh. If successful, they throw a charmed person to see if they take over control, adjusting for level intelligence of character. Doppelgangers are always first level. Their desperate tooth and nail attacks are equivalent to a dagger. Yeah, that is really awesome. I'm going to highlight that. Can I throw out an Aqua Teen Hunger Force reference to the Iamopods? Yeah, that's really cool. The idea all of a sudden somebody that looks like you charges out of the underbrush and is just trying to touch you and grab you. Super, super creepy, for sure. Hey, Dave Mills, nice to have you. Especially if there's like a few of them. It's not just one, but there's 4, and they're just screaming, running. What was that movie? Oh, not movie. There was a game. It was sort of like it originally came out around the same time as kind of the Dooms and those sorts of games, and they've come out with sequels and things, and I think they even come with the new ones. But one of the bad guys they had in there, and it was just I forget the name of this one, but it was a lot of fun. It was just super over the top. Everything was just kind of crazy. But one of the creatures they had, and they would just send waves and waves of creatures at you, were these guys that had bombs in their hands, and they were just running up at you screaming. And you could blow them up. But and if they got to, they would just blow up. But of course, in numbers, when they're coming at you from all sides, and if you had surround sound headphones, you could hear kind of where they're coming. Not Duke Nukem, Brian Smith. I'll probably remember it as soon as I'm done streaming. Similar kind of thing, but their shtick was that it was just kind of more open world and just massive amounts of enemies. I don't know why I'm spacing on the name, but yeah, these guys would come screaming at you, and I just have that image of these doppelgangers, just packs of them, just screaming. Be interesting to think about how they get the double. Like, how do you? Is it something that's from a lab or something? Like somebody gets a hair sample and takes it back and casts some ritual and creates a doppelganger. Be interesting to figure out what the genesis story of those doppelgangers would be. I suppose it could just be in your campaign. You can decide. We have hellhounds. Hypnoid fungus. Global group mind fungus, which will attempt to magically hypnotize any within seeing distance into going to the fungus and joining his mind with theirs. Those who see it must make their saving throw against magic, or they will lose 1 to 4 points of mentality to the fungus per melee round until it is killed. Those whose mentality is totally joined with the fungus will fight any who attempt to attack it. Ooh. Interesting. Saving throw, or they will lose 1 to 4 points of mentality to the fungus per melee round. So pretty quick. But I mean, the interesting thing is this one could be really scary. I always hear these stories, and I don't know if this is true or not, or just, but that, that when you look at mushrooms or fungus on a forest, that the actual size of the fungus is much larger than what you see, that you're just seeing this little bit, and that there's a whole colony of this fungus underneath the surface of the woods, that, the little mushroom heads you just see or whatever, are just kind of the edges, just the little fingertips of this much larger organism. And it'd be great to play with something like that in this case, where you're just seeing a little fungus here and there. And then this thing happens. And maybe if I was going to do that, I'd want to slow down the I guess I'm converting mentality to intelligence, but I could see wisdom also. Slowing that down, because there's this kind of puzzle of, okay, we see these little fungus bits, and maybe we get a sense that that's it, but how do we get down to the main part of the fungus? We got to dig it up. How do we do that? We can't just use our magic or hacking at it. We have to figure it out. We got to dig down, find out where this fungus lives, and then destroy it that way, or figure out some way to destroy it. Could be like a really interesting, almost thinky combat puzzle, because you can't just fight it with your sword, because cutting off the tips of those mushrooms isn't doing what you might think it's doing. Brian Smith says, makes you want to go bury yourself in the dirt if you feel you're safe. Yeah, totally. You just start kind of trying to dig in and merge with it, and then you're losing your intelligence. And yeah, the rest of the party's like, what the heck's going on? Well, how do you do it? I'd love to actually probably think about that further and maybe look up and see, well, is that true about how fungi are in the forest or whatever, at least the ones I'm thinking of, if that's actually a true thing, or if I'm just misthinking it. But it would be a really cool encounter, because it would push different things. Yeah, maybe you could fireball it if you had fireball, if you put the fireball in the right place, and maybe you could, or maybe you have to figure out how can we expose the fungus, enough of the fungi, and then do some kind of mass area effect damage. And of course, but one of our party members is in the middle of it, so even if you could do that, do you want to fireball it? What else could you do? Could you freeze it? Could you do something else? Could you use some kind of other spell you might not normally think of, like some kind of vegetation type spell? Really some intriguing ideas. Okay, we got Imps. Killer trees. Stranglers have extremely tough limbs that will grasp and constrict or strangle any creature who steps within their 30-foot range. Eaters have normal limbs and branches, plus special long viney ones that droop from above and run along the ground. When a creature ventures within a 50-foot radius of the tree, these will whip up and around it and convey it to the tree's suddenly opened mouth, which shuts with a snap after its prey has been stuffed within. Swallowed creatures will suffer 1 to 6 hit points damage per turn from digestive juices. Bludgeon trees will smash at anything coming within 20 feet of them. These trees remind me of like the trees in The Wizard of Oz, also the Whomping Willow in the Harry Potter movies. We got another reference to the Kzinti. Equally dangerous with Claw and Fang. Can get 2 hits on any character with a dex below 15. That's interesting. So they're looking here, they're basically equating your dexterity with your agility. So if you are not quick enough, they can get 2 whaps on you. It's not about how many they get per turn on somebody else. It's just whap, whap, because you're slow, which is interesting. 15, though, is tough. I mean, they must be super fast, because, I mean, having a dex below 15, a lot of people aren't going to have a dex above 15, or even at 15. We got some Lamier sort of vampire ghoul that exerts a super powerful sexual attraction on any character within 25 feet, regardless of level. Acts as a basic roll charm spell. Their object is to capture as many characters as possible and take them away to be erotically eaten body and soul. Yeah, I would definitely do that off screen. You're being erotically eaten. Make a new character. How? Well, we're not going to get into it. Let's just say, just let your minds run with the words erotically and eaten put together. But I'm not going to elaborate. Giant leeches, leprechauns, we got the Mahars, Mercurials. Here we go. Maybe we can see Mercurials. Okay, so they're extremely fast magical beings. We saw Mercurials before in their player character. They were put down as a player character race. Here they are. We get a little bit more details about them in their monster block. Basically, they're extremely fast magical beings, intelligent but perverse. Commonly armed with rapiers and long needles, which they thrust through chainmail and in and between the joints in plate armor. Well, that just sounds nasty. Muck creatures. Non-intelligent man-shaped walking swamp. So basically your Swamp Thing. Yeah, we still don't know much about the Mercurials. I'm guessing they're humanoid, even though they don't say so. And they're extremely fast and they're magical. What more do we need to know? And they're perverse. And they like to stick needles into people. Yeah, still, if somebody, I don't think anyone came up with where these might be taken from. So if anyone has any ideas of where Mercurials, if they showed up in any kind of fiction, there's not, I wish there were, I mean, maybe Wikipedia might have something. If somebody has access to Wikipedia, it'd be cool if there was some kind of resource for characters and things from fictional sources that would make it really cool to be able to look up something and see what it came from. Weapons go through or get stuck in the muck creature's body, senses and attacks the emotion of fear with a burning acid secreted from its hands, has great strength. That definitely feels very either Man-Thing or Swamp Thing or both. Brian says I'm imagining a cool little gnome or something. I don't know. I mean, you get the sense that they're thin, but I don't know that they're small. They definitely seem weird. I wish I got a little bit more of what they look like. We get the sense that they're humanoid. They're just kind of really thin and almost skeletal. The monster thing says they're fast, but I don't remember them even getting some crazy dex bonus. They just got these penalties to their armor class, so I don't know. Mind parasites. Invisible, rubbery, floating spheres about the size of a man's head. They wrap themselves around a character's head and attempt to take over his mind. As with Shadow Stalkers, all characters are armor class 5 against them. An attacked person can do 1 to 6 points of damage to it with his fingers if he hits it while trying to rip it from his head. Once a character has been taken over by a mind parasite, it can only be removed by using an ESP spell with a cure, disease, or remove curse. So you have to do a little combo of ESP and cure disease or remove curse. Men wearing helms of telepathy or amulets of ESP will actually attract them, and though they won't be able to get at such a character, there's a 50% chance of his being driven mad by them. Mind parasites can be any alignment at random. Well, there's a little thing. If you're wearing a helm of telepathy and you think you're a badass, or your amulet ESP, just know that there might be mind parasites invisibly floating around trying to drive you mad. Yeah, maybe you didn't think there was a downside of those items, but perhaps there is. Night Gaunts. Rubbery black flying demons that attempt to pick up characters and fly off with them. I think I saw them in Beastmaster, though they weren't black. Once it gets both claws attached on the character, he is paralyzed. Claws need not come in contact with skin. Garments are sufficient. They come from and return to great cavernous abysses in the earth. Or maybe that's also like the cloaker kind of thing. I feel like that's kind of cloaker-ish. Hey, Boss Bully Boy. Welcome, Boss Bully Boy. Boss Bully Boy says, glad you're reading these. I think a lot of folks these days have no idea about how lore and canon affect mechanics and such, especially where it comes to creatures. Absolutely. Glad you joined in. Yeah, I love these. I love these things. These documents are the best. The best. I hope more people become aware of them. I don't know. I found this. Someone posted it on one of the Discords that I'm on They got it from the Piazza. I don't know if the Piazza has a wide reading audience, but hopefully, I mean, look, it's not going to be through me. I don't have the viewership to force things into the public eye of the hobby, so to speak. But hopefully, word gets around and a lot of people are able to check it out because they've made it all, bless them. They've made it all publicly available, so anyone can go and grab these and look at them. And there's just a lot of fun and interesting things in here, and we really can see put into practice the sorts of things that OSR folks generally talk about, which is, look, you can do whatever you want, do all these things, make them all, make it happen, right? Be whatever you want, put all kinds of stuff together, just have fun. And they certainly did that in their game, for sure. All right, so we got the Night Gaunts, we got Nightmares, we saw the Protein Polymorphs before. Sandworms. Oh, Usul, you have called a big one. The largest land monster, the sandworm lives only in the deep sand desert. Yes, it does. It detects movement over sand at great distance and will sweep up from afar to swallow anything in its path. Creatures unlucky enough to be swallowed will suffer 1 to 10 points of damage per turn from digestion. Water is poison to a sandworm. I mean, this is totally an Arrakis sandworm, and I love it. Got to walk without rhythm. I hope there's a magical version of a thumper somewhere. Shy Hulud. St. Elmo's firebugs, or Zakrackles, are intelligent aliens whose corporeal form is a floating ball of electricity, 18 inches in diameter, can deliver short-range lightning bolts of up to 3 dice of damage, can be short-circuited by water. So we have a couple things here that are weak towards water, or weak against water. St. Elmo's firebugs. I don't know those. Does that ring a bell to anyone? I got to imagine this is from a book or something. Zakrackles. It just screams book. And also, I wonder if this was kind of pasted in at some point later because it's totally not the same typewriter. And that was a trick we used to do. My cousins and I, when I was younger, and I would have to spend a lot of time in an office with my cousin who's kind of babysitting me, we would do all kinds of fun stuff where I would have comics and things, and we would take out the stuff inside the speech bubbles when we put our own in. But we found this trick where you could take a photocopy of the comic book, then white out or cut out or put out something over the text in the speech bubbles, then photocopy it again, and then you had your fresh piece with basically blank text boxes you could put all your stuff in. And this seems clearly like if there was something else beneath there or not, and they did something where they kind of cut it out or did something, then they were able to put this in there from a different printer. And then once you photocopy it, you could almost see maybe there's a little bit of lines that you could see where that might have been from the earlier copy. And then it basically becomes part of the document. Old school tricks. Shai Halud's cousin, Hai Shalud. Something like that. We got Tharks, the green men of Barsoom. We figured that out from last time. Thoats, vicious eight-legged beasts. Are these also from Barsoom, or I don't even know. Typhoid Marys. That's interesting. Robed, hooded, and veiled bringers of disease on contact. A cure disease is needed, or else those who are infected will suffer from 1 to 3 points of damage per turn until death. Diseases are referee's choice. Hey, look at that. Ref's choice. Dealer's choice. What you got? Vision of Panic. This manifestation of pan can cause characters to lose all control and run in panic. Roll for each character using the Charm Person table. A 9 or above indicates that the character will run in panic, modified based on the accompanying chart, which is based on wisdom. Great wisdom helps you. Poor wisdom hurts you, right? Pretty standard, but I like it. The Vision of Panic. White Apes of Barsoom. Tangler Kelp. Leviathan. Swallow a small ship at 1 gulp if it so chooses. Always add +2 to its reaction rolls, as it's just not interested in anything much smaller than itself. It's just not into you. Listen, sailing ship. Leviathan's just not into you. Right? I mean, that's Ahab. Just not into you. Sorry. What are you going to do? Albatross of Ill Omen. Any ship visited by the Albatross will have bad luck for 1 to 4 days following. Albatross. There was a famous poem poem by Baudelaire about an albatross, and I remember having to take a high-level French class in high school where we had to write a paper on that poem, and I remember seeing the example of, like, here's what your paper should be like, and it was someone who broke down the word albatross into alba for white, and it just seemed just so far beyond, we're in high school, we're in pre-internet age, so I was like, I'm thinking, this person is brilliant. I don't know how they cheated, or they looked it up and they had one of those dictionaries that had the origins of words. But I just thought, this is kind of, are you kidding me for a high school paper? I actually did pretty well in that paper, though. And I'm not going to lie, it was because I just kept adding, like, I fudged a bunch of stuff. But for some reason, the teacher liked it, so. Typhoid Mary, not just for typhoid anymore. You got that right, Terrence. Typhoid Mary will help you with all your disease needs. We have sprites, we have shadow stalkers, mindless astral shells seeking more substantial bodies. They are extremely nebulous and twice as hard to kill as normal humans. They attack the psyche. All victims are armor class 5 against them. The victim is taken over rather than killed. They have a few of these that are interested in hanging out and taking over your body. Terrence says, Ancient Mariner intensifies. Yep, pretty much. Get your rhyme out. Oh, here we go. Tar Golem. Ooh, Tar Golem must have photocopied this out of a whole other book or something. Now we're not only just different. We've gone to sans serif, ladies and gentlemen. We started out in serif, even some of the text was different. We're still in serif. We have now gone to sans serif, and it looks like this is photocopied out of somebody else's book that had holes punched in it, because I don't think, oh no, maybe all this had holes punched. Okay, never mind. I was thinking maybe that was something. But let's see. All right, so I guess gotta find out what makes this Tar Golem special. An 8-foot tall golem made of tar with a thin non-tar crust over its entire body. Its hand and feet are solid lumps. Its crust is usually covered with dust, painted or otherwise disguised. All weapons do half damage and stick to its body. Flaming weapons do it no damage, and neither do they stick to its body. Weapons coated with oil of slipperiness can be freed 1d2 times before they too stick to its body. Normal fire heals its damage. Magic fire, less than 41 points, melts the tar, but the golem can control the actions of the melted parts to continue its attacks or to reform its body as the tar cools. So this is very T2000. It takes 6 melee turns to reform. Magic fire of greater than 40 points will set the golem alight, burning up 1d4 points per melee turn. However, a burning tar golem does an extra 2d10 points of burning pitch damage per hit, no saving throw. It can also throw burning missiles as from a short bow, which do 1d8 points of burning pitch damage per melee turn for 3 melee turns if they hit. Magic weapons stuck to a burning tar golem can be damaged. Make a saving throw versus magic fire. If it doesn't make it, it loses 1+ for each point less than that required to save. Ooh, I like that. Just as a mechanic. Make your saving throw versus magic, basically. And if it misses its save, it loses 1+ per miss. I kind of like that. So if you miss by 1 and you have a +3 sword, at least you still have a +2 sword. But you miss by 5, you're probably toast. Or your weapon is toast. Cold of 40 points or less slows the tar golem. For every 10 points over 40, the golem will stop for 1 melee turn and will take full damage. Fire cancels the effects of cold on the golem. The golem is immune to all other magical and clerical spells. Wow. There is a 15% chance that a being with storm giant strength can remove a stuck weapon. Melting the golem will also release the weapons, but there is a 60% chance that the golem will restore 1 to 45 points. Weapons that have been removed have a 30% chance of sticking again unless properly cleaned. If the golem gets a hit, the victim must make a saving throw based on his dex, or he will be pulled in and hugged to the golem's body, where he will stick. A golem can automatically hit any victim stuck to its body, or it can ignore him and try to hit someone else. Victims stuffed to its body suffer 1d6 suffocation damage per turn. Whoa-wee. Well, that's a tough golem. A lot of notes here on the fire and cold. You got to kind of play it. I mean, if you don't have a big fire spell, I guess you want to go with cold. Brian Smith says, it seems to be a boss monster with its own special formatting and everything. I mean, I feel like they must have gotten it from another book. Somebody else. I mean, this is obviously is written with game speak, so it's not like they just pulled this out of like a myth, a book of myths or something. But yeah, this is clearly something they pulled out of somebody else's book or notes who had a completely different printer or typewriter, what have you, and then, yeah, copied it in there. It'd be interesting to see where they came from, if there was some recollection of, oh yeah, this came from somebody else's game. This came from, maybe they went to an early Gen Con and they just traded notes. I mean, you would totally do that with your friends, trade interesting things. And that looks clearly like either a couple of people working on the game, and we do have 2 authors, but it seems like up until that, they were, if we're looking at 2 different authors and stuff's being collated together, they're pretty much using similar equipment. That one is so completely different that it just screams to be from somebody outside their close group. But we don't know. We can only make guesses. So about the Mangroves, which we saw some of in the first book. Rubbery-skinned, humanoid, 10-foot-tall guardians for the gods who live in underground caverns. Part troll, part human, part ghoul. Oh, right, we read about this in the forums yesterday, too, where they talked about this. They can function in light but prefer the darkness. Human corpse eaters who are not adverse to creating their own corpses. That's a good way of putting it. Mangroves can stretch their tentacle arms up to 10 feet to strike victims and paralyze them. If the tentacles hit, they wrap around the victim, delivering a mild electric shock, and drag him towards the mangrove. Roll each round. For each round, the tentacle remains uncut. The victim must save versus being paralyzed. Severed tentacles will attack like snakes and continue to attempt to paralyze opponents. Mangroves have 4 tentacles protruding from their torsos below their arms. They also fight with a sword in one of their hands and bite with sharp fangs. Their bite is infectious, save versus death, and the victim will become a mangrove within 3 days unless cured of disease. Paralyzed victims must have poison neutralized or they remain paralyzed. Mangroves regenerate 1 to 4 points per melee round and will reassemble after death unless destroyed totally. So that's some of the troll aspect coming through. Another upcoming creature from the Chaos Labs. Oh, you're ahead of me again, Brian Smith. Retrievers, giant spider-like creatures whose front 4 limbs end in large meat cleavers. That's lovely. Approximately the size of mammoths. Yeah, just approximately. They are very fast in the open. They have 8 eyes on stalks, 2 for seeing, and 6 which project rays. Oh my god. So we're talking like mammoth-sized beholders, somewhat. All right, here we go. The rays are fire, cold, hypnosis, paralysis, disintegrate, jellification. Yes. Oh, that's got to be a good one. You have just been jellified. Retrievers have large, scythe-like mandibles which can cut through armor plate. Their body is AC -2, except for the underbelly, which is AC 6. The eyes are treated as AC -4 due to their small size and constant motion. Retrievers are constructs from the Chaos Labs and are often in service to a demon, extremely persistent. All right, so yeah, Chaos Labs come back with their newest model, the Retriever. Yeah, it's just the size of a mammoth that are extremely quick. Jellify people with their eyes. Yes, I've seen this before, and not just in these creatures in this book, but there's some cases in the Monster Manual with these creatures with different ACs. But I've never really messed with them. I usually just pick their base AC and go. I'm wondering how I would handle something like this. I suppose, if I wanted to be true with this, that you would have to use some kind of fictional positioning to basically get to these other armor classes. Maybe you could just treat, if you're in front of it, you could try to get the eyes, even though they're AC -4. That might be doable. I think if you're going to get to the belly, underbelly, you're going to have to figure out how to get there because they're covering that part up. They can't really cover up their eyes because they need them to see. But that belly, you'd have to figure that out. And I wonder how I would, or maybe just in general as a GM, how you would want to describe that, because you want to give them maybe a hint, but they have to kind of earn it. Because if you just say like, "Oh, look, you see their underbelly's all weak," well, of course they're going to go after the underbelly, and plus you wouldn't really see it. You'd have to kind of figure out a way. Either you're really paying attention, or they do something, or maybe they raise up on their back limbs or something. Like you think of a elephant raising up, and then maybe they see it. It'll be interesting. I'm curious. I'd love to see an example of how they play that and how they did that, because I can think about ways, say in my game, where I would do that if I was going to use that kind of system. But it's not natural to me, because I kind of just would tend to somewhat ignore those things a bit. Dreaded Black Serpent. Another construct from the Chaos Labs. Ooh, Chaos Labs coming in. Created from the soul and substance of murdered Balrogs. Jeez, how many murdered Balrogs? Gandalf, Balrog murderer. The serpent retains the Balrog's 75% magic resistance and will generally be found guarding places the Lords of Chaos don't want people getting into. It is extremely poisonous, and those who do not make their saving throws, -4 on their die roll, die immediately. It can spit venom up to 30 feet, unintelligent. Dave Mills says Retriever was in Fiend Folio, which was mostly white dwarf monsters from their Fiend Factory articles. I did not know that. I have Fiend Folio. I'll have to go back. I don't have it with me. It's in the other place, but I'll have to go back and check out the Retriever. Are they the same? Are they as kind of crazy as they seem here? And hopefully there's a picture. I will have to look that up when I get back my stuff. Vulture Lions. 12 foot tall with the body of a giant lion and the head and talons of a vulture. Stupid, but mean. All right. We already saw the Kraken. It will answer to the name Kalkru. Kalkru. But there's only a 10% chance it's appears. So you can gate it in and call its name, but it's a good chance it's not going to show up. And we have, again, that same looks like pasted in copy from some other document. Okay. Darren says, Chaos Farms remembers. Yep. Daughters of Kali appear as beautiful red-skinned human women with 4 arms. The best description of her alignment is pro-blood. She can often be appeased by a gift of freshly spilled blood if presented politely. If appeased or overawed by a fighter, she will accompany him until she is sure of his bravery. Once she is sure, she will take him as a lover until she gets pregnant. She will then desert him to bear the child in private. The child will always be another daughter of Kali. The daughter of Kali is never found near running water, and she can only cross such at night. Well, that's really interesting. I like that. Pro-blood. She's pro-blood. But if you're a fighter, maybe she'll hang around with you. Dudes get some off-screen romance going, and then run away to bear a child. And this is also clearly from another... This looks like it's from an actual book. The Apt. Because I'm not seeing anything that looks gamish. This looks like it might have been out of some kind of maybe mythology book. An Apt is a white-furred beast of the northern polar regions. Its head is like that of a hippopotamus, large and with a tremendous mouth, but with a pair of horns growing downward from the lower jaw. The eyes are large, reaching from the top of the head down to the lower jaw, and are made up of several thousand ocelli each. Each ocellus has its own lid, and the Apt has independent control of as many as they wish, a few for use in bright sunlight and snow, or many for the dark caves which are its home. It has a pair of arms extending forward from the shoulders. These terminate in hands with which it seizes its prey. The Apt stands 6 to 8 feet at the shoulder, and its fur is highly prized for garments and throws. Well, nice Apt throw. Yeah. What is that throw made of? It's so soft. Is this cashmere? Is this a fine wool? Nah, it's Apt. It's Apt. Definitely an interesting creature. Ooh, we get Flatlanders. Nice. Beings from Flatland, where everything is only 2 dimensions. In our dimension, they are only 1 molecule thick, and when turned sideways, they are nearly invisible. An armor class -8 to projectile and non-slashing weapons. From the front, they are AC 6. Though thin, they have the same mass as humans, and they move quickly due to lack of wind resistance. Indeed. They fight with javelins and swords, which are also 1 molecule thick, and consequently the javelins are treated as +5 and the swords as swords of sharpness. They are, of course, unusable by humans. Oh, that's some fun, right? Brian Smith, these are literally flat earthers. Indeed. Tattletail, a creature that feeds partly on the energy released by violent death. Some say it absorbs part of the souls of those killed in its presence, so that they cannot be resurrected save as zombies. It will often follow a party about, screeching wildly and warning monsters and enemies of the party's approach. It will seek to create a conflict situation whenever possible. It will often live in partnership with powerful predatory types, finding them prey and warning them of enemies. It is semi-intelligent in its one-tracked way, and its sufficiently powerful and nasty character could persuade it to work for him. Its great speed and agility accounts for its high armor class. It looks something like a foot-long dragonfly. Oh man, that Tattletail I could just have some fun with that. It just being a nuisance. I would almost make it more like a doppelganger, like it looks like a person, and it poses as a prisoner or some kind of escapee, and then as soon as the party is getting close to the bad guys, it just starts screaming its head off, warning anybody around. I mean, that would just be. Let me highlight this one. This could just be a ton of fun for just some sneakiness. But being that it looks like a foot-long dragonfly, I just don't see a lot of parties taking it. I just feel like it would just get dispatched. I don't know. I like the or they'd be expecting it to be to do something. Or I'm really keen on the idea that maybe that it's able to camouflage a bit and kind of prey upon parties who are always looking for prisoners and things like that, and help and use that to help its I don't know, masters, partners, whatever. Of course, if you overuse that, then parties will never want to save anybody. They'll just want to kill them. But man, that could be fun. Blast Puppy. Looks like a small, innocuous dog. Oh, you know what I'm thinking before I go on the Blast Puppy? If you mix this in, like you had a group of prisoners and one of them was one of these Tattletails, that might be good. And then you could kind of have some fun with it over time if they're moving through some period and some people are like, dude, that guy's not right. I don't know what's going on, but he's not right. And maybe the party thinks, is that person kind of crazy? What's going on? Bob seems fine to me. And then Bob goes just ape at the worst possible moment. Okay, Blast Puppy. Looks like a small, innocuous dog. It often will rapidly attack for no good reason. It will only use its psionic power in the presence of other psionics. It has a continuous mind bar and psychic wall. It is immune to wands and staves. So what is the Blast Puppy? Because it's doing some kind of mind blast? Is that what I am to understand from that? A grindstone. 5 to 8 foot tall high and 2 to 4 foot thick wheel-shaped beast. It has one eye in the center of each hub and 2 extendable jointed limbs on each side that end in wristed claws. The rolling surface of the wheel has thick armored treads. Each wheel has its own distinctive tread pattern. Bat-like, it steers by sonic radar, and alternating between the treads are organs for ultrasonic noise-making. Ears, mouths, and an anus. Well, I'm glad they mentioned the anus, because I was going to ask, are we sure it has one? But hey, it's got one. The wheel is AC3, the hub is AC5. If knocked on its side, it employs its powerful limbs to right itself. Depending on size, it can weigh from 500 to 1,000 pounds. Kills by crushing. Just got to fix my chair for a minute. Thank you. Sorry about the noise. Cat's Eye Aggie. Gigamaggies. A 2.5 feet tall, armored hemisphere that travels on a sort of carpet of slippery spheres like ball bearings. Upon encountering prey, it shoots large numbers of these spheres beneath its target to a distance of 40 feet in any direction. Unable to stand on the surface of gliding spheres, the target generally loses its balance and falls to the ground. The Aggie then closes and assaults it with a powerful digestive acid secreted from its mouth, which surrounds the base of the creature. It is unintelligent and sees by several dozen slit-pupiled eyes studying its exterior. Blast Puppy sounds like one of those weird fair foods. Says Terrence. Yeah, maybe. It's definitely a weird... Oh, so here we have some handwritten. Gotta love the handwritten new monsters. Did we see the Withra? I think, did we? I don't know, but it's an incompetent wraith that only... the Withra is an incompetent wraith. The only distinguishing characteristic between the Withra and the wraith is a small chaos mark on the back of its neck. Like, it just reminds me of like a Monty Python sketch. How do you know it's a Withra? It's got a mark on the back of its neck. Like other undead, it is impervious to the usual spells such as sleep, charm, etc. However, unlike its brothers or sisters, brethren, it is completely impervious to magical weapons, silver weapons, and can only be hit by normal weapons. Also, unlike other undead, it cannot be turned or dispelled by any level of cleric. If anyone makes such an attempt, it will approach that person in curiosity. I like that. What are you doing? That'll be a fun... that just sounds like a lot of fun to throw in a cleric. This is the cleric's trying hard to do the turning attempt. They're rolling really well, and this thing's just coming up like, well, what exactly do you think you're doing? Because of its low dexterity, it attacks at -4. If it hits, it does 1 to 6 points of damage and collapses dead and raises it... Wait, if it hits, does 1d6 points damage and collapses dead and raises its victim to the top of the next experience level. That is hilarious. So basically, you just want to let this thing hit you. So instead of draining levels, it gives you a level. Oh, that is good. But it has to hit you. You can't. You got to not hit it, but it's got to hit you. That is. Reminds me says, "Whoa! Somebody whipped out the number 2 Ticonderoga." Exactly. Is that a pen or a pencil? I can't tell. Whoa, we got some. And then they got some. Wow, we got all the. Here we got all our. We got our characters from Myths and Legends. So if you want to know how they statted out John Carter from Mars, 30th level fighter, immortal warrior. Eric John Stark. I don't know what that's. Eric John Stark. Somebody fill me in. That one's not familiar to me. At least not at first chance. I just keep thinking of Game of Thrones, which obviously this well predates Game of Thrones. Terrence says, actually sounds like an undead nilbog. It is, basically. It's kind of the opposite of a wraith. But Eric John Stark is a 20th level fighter. Kikaha, 20th level fighter, 16th level thief, 8th level monk. A non-15th level fighter, 10th level monk. Fafard, a.k.a. of Fafard and the Grey Mouser, 25th level fighter. Grey Mouser, 16th level thief, 3rd level magic user. Got a couple spells. Detect magic, read languages, and blinding flash. Tross, 20th level fighter, 11th level monk. Got some clerical stuff. Kane, are we talking Citizen Kane or Solomon Kane? Or I suppose this predates the WWF/WWE Kane. 30th level fighter, 8th level magic user. Kugel, 8th level fighter, 14th level thief. Tarzan, 25th level fighter, 14th level thief, 9th level monk. Cyrano, I guess as in de Bergerac, 25th level fighter. Modesty Blaze, 16th level monk, 13th level assassin. Terrence says, I know Terrence, I'm sure it's Solomon Kane. I was kind of making a joke. Willie Garvin, 20th level fighter, 15th level monk. No, wait a minute. Solomon Kane is here. So who is Kane over here? No, we were all wrong. This Kane must be different because here we have Solomon Kane. We were all fooled. Well, how do we have 2 Kanes then? Tell me that. Yeah, we got 2 Kanes. 1 Solomon Kane and 1 Kane. So no, we got 2 Kanes because here's Solomon Kane, 25th level fighter. So Kane and Solomon Kane. Kane's a higher level. Here we go. Conan, 25th level fighter, 9th level thief. I would have thought he might have been higher given some of these other levels, but I'm no expert. That's what I said. Citizen Kane. I don't know, Terrence. I don't think I would stat Charles Foster Kane as a fighter. He's more. Well, we don't have bards here. I would maybe put thief. D'Artagnan, 25th level fighter. Athos, also 25th level fighter. Porthos, 20th level fighter. And Aramis, 20th level fighter. Odysseus, 25th level fighter, 6th level thief. Saul of all weapons, 25th level fighter, 16th level monk. I don't know Saul of all weapons. Tyran of the two weapons, the 27th level fighter / thief. So I guess 27th levels of fighter and thief? Must be. Sinbad, 15th level fighter, thief, 25th level merchant. Ooh, I'd like to see what your levels in merchant get you. Hiawatha, 25th level fighter, 9th level monk. This is all awesome because it's all mashed in from all different sources. But I wonder, did they all physically interact with each other, or are these there just kind of for, I don't know, reference? I mean, are we walking into the tavern and seeing Hiawatha hanging out with Sinbad and Beowulf? Because, I mean, that would be kind of awesome. Especially if Kane was Charles Foster Kane. He's out there big balling in the corner, making enemies. Talking about, sleds. Beowulf, 25th level fighter. Jarell of Joiry, 17th level fighter. Can't see who that is. Probably have to go back to the master list. Al-Hazred, the Mad Arab, 20th level magic user. Oh yeah, we hadn't really seen any magic users. Egil Skala Grimson, 20th level fighter / magic user. Elric, Pre-Drain, 10th level fighter, 19th level magic user. Moonglum, 11th level fighter, 7th level thief. Ayukunu, the Laughing Magician, 25th level magic user. Here we have some. These are straight out of the Dying Earth. The Excellent Prismatic Spray, Fandal's Mantle of Stealth, the Spell of the Slow Hour, Philogen's Second Hypnotic Spell, Fandal's Gyrator, the Charm of Untiring Nourishment, Spell of the Omnipotent Sphere, Fandal's Critique of the Chill, Gilgad's Instantaneous Galvanic Thrust, or the Instantaneous Electric Effort, Temporal Stasis, Hulart's Visceral Pang, Lugweiler's Dismal Itch, Rialto's Green Turmoil, Hulart's Blue Extractive, the Charm of Forlorn Insistment, Spell of the Macroid Toe, Fastdrubal's Magnetic Transfer, or the Agency of Far Dispatch. Those are great. Maldweb, 36th level magic user. Ningauble of the Seven Eyes, 30th level magic user. Somebody whose name I can't read, also a 30th level magic user. Shadowjack, 20th level fighter, 16th level thief, 25th level magic user. Thulsa Doom, 25th level magic user. Zaltotun, 30th level magic user. And we get some revised magic tables now. Magic items, swords, per Greyhawk, swords, abilities, extraordinary abilities. One thing I like to do, here's a little trick for you. Don't just use the magic sword stuff for swords. Use that for everything. Roll anytime, and I would in fact say not even just for magic weapons, just for anything magic, roll on those sword abilities and intelligence and ego stuff. It makes magic items a lot more fun if they could possibly have some kind of living. They could be living. They could have their own ideas of what they want to do. They could have special abilities. It just adds a lot of flavor stuff. Terrence says, great spell names. Absolutely. I'm not going to go through all these lists. They're here if you want them. I am interested in this part, though. The revised magical procedure. Number 1. All magic users may memorize one spell per spell level. All other spells come from their grimoire. If the grimoire is lost and no duplicate is hidden, non-memorized spells are lost. A copy of a spell costs 20% of its value if bought. So you can memorize one spell per spell level. So that means one first level spell, one second level spell, one third level spell. Is that when I'm to take it? Or is that if I'm a first level magic user, I can memorize one first level spell? I'm not sure. Melee rounds needed to prepare mental, I guess just to prepare your mental self to cast a spell. Spells, 4 melee rounds. Scrolls, 3 melee rounds. 2 rings, 2 melee rounds. Wands, miscellaneous, and potions, 1 melee round. So to prepare yourself, I guess, to cast a spell, not fast. Not quite a whole turn, but multiple melee rounds. So you really can't be in melee while you're trying to do that. Or someone's just whacking you while you take 4 turns off to try to get ready to cast a spell. Third, common magic items which can be ordered. Potions of healing, potions of extra healing, +1 armor, +1 shield, +1 arrows. Interesting that you can order stuff. They apparently have got kind of Sears catalogs. Just know it's going to take 1 month for your potion of healing, and your +1 shield, the +1 armors and stuff is going to be 2 months in advance. And you can only get 1 potion of extra healing or potion of healing per adventure. And then number 4, scrolls may be sold for 10% of the value of the spells thereon. And we got some new handwritten stuff here. New magical weapons and items. Shield of Defense. Gauntlet of the Master Thief. Oh, I like that there was some editing here. So they changed silver to mithril. So it started off as fine leather glove with silver scaled back, but then they scratched that out. Because originally it was with some kind of a black pen, and then wrote it in with a blue pen. Fine leather glove with mithril links across the back. So they kind of upgraded it a little bit in the fashion sense. Emerald encrusted wrist guard and red threaded / patterned palm. The effect can only be used by thieves. Any other class attempting to use it will find it attacks at -10. Thieves gain the following abilities. 25% plus on all thieves' abilities in which hand is used. When using a rapier, a thief will gain a +3 on attacks and will get double the attacks with that hand. And it's worth a bunch of money. Boots of banana peel. Yeah, like I'm guessing. The wearer slips, slides, and falls, Yep, nice. Hawk helm. A silver helm shaped like a hawk's head, sort of predating the what's his name, Griffin in the Berserk manga or anime. Wearer gets infravision, has his vision tripled, also becomes 90% immune to fear and confusion. However, there is a 1% chance that anytime the helm is used, the wearer will transform into a hawk and fly away. Wow. And it looks like it started off as something bigger than 1%, maybe 5%. Is that what that looks like? So a 1% chance that, you just might permanently turn into a hawk and skedaddle. But, that's a good, I don't know, I'd take my chances, I think. Caduceus of Supreme Elemental Control. Concentrate on a section, and that section will then glow. The magic user can summon forth a 10-die elemental. Each section has 5 charges. 1 for each of the. So we have air, fire, water, earth. 95% chance of controlling the elemental, regardless of the disturbance, with the exception of death. Seal of the Snake. You could summon some giant cobras. Ring of Ruthlessness. So you can make a save, but this one's cursed. The wearer, no matter what alignment, becomes 100% amoral and ruthless. But not toothless. And then we have the Nefer amulet that never got described. Look at that. We lost the Nefer amulet. What might it have been? We shall never know. Which is blank. Non-corrodable armor. Rings of betrayal. I like how they drew out. They started off with the Ring of Betrayal that you could cancel it with a Dispel Magic, and then they cross it out and put Remove Curse. And then they had, it looks like it's kind of in process, because they put a Wand of Negation, but then they crossed that out in parentheses, which was not after, it was in the original one, was maybe cancellation. Electric Armor. Oh, if you're struck by a metal weapon, it delivers an electric charge, 5 to 30 points. It's pretty killer. Puff of prescience. Just a puff. Small bag full of what looks like yellow powder. When a pinch of the powder is thrown to the floor, it will burst into a puff of smoke, and the person using the stuff will get a look at some room or area that they will come to in the future. The catches are that the person does not know the location and cannot hear. Cannot hear? Bag contains 20 pinches, usable only once per day. More than once sends the person using it to the room shown. Well, maybe you want to. Just blah, blah, and go there. I suppose the cannot hear means you can't get a sense of what's going on in the room, or at least you can only visually get a sense of what's going on in the room. Key to the Kingdom, a platinum key with glowing runes. When touched to a secret door, chest, panel, etc., it will magically open the item. If the object has a trap that remains undetected, the key will successfully bypass the trap 75% of the time. This item can be used once per day, more than once, and the key will melt. 20 charges. Random spell scroll. Oh, they changed out Feeble Mind for teleport. Why? All right, that is... Should we start? We'll see. We're at 1:25. I feel like I can go a bit further. Adjust my chair again. It keeps kind of slipping down a bit. On the one hand, it would be nice to go further. On the other hand, I kind of like being able to stop. Let's see if anything new has come up in this thread. This thread does not seem to be particularly moving quickly, which is, we did get some new posts. Let me go to the last page there. Any thoughts, questions, anything interesting? I mean, this stuff is, I'm finding it fascinating. Someone wondering if they should merge the stuff in with Mystara. Some corrections to the hexographer map that was posted earlier. Let's see. My reading of what Schick said is that the actual Deep Ones / Kuotoa live out in the sea near the tribe of Malfegi, and that the Malfegi tribe has intermixed with the Deep Ones. But the humanoid dwellers in the Malfegi are not actually Deep Ones, but humans with some Piscine Deep One ancestry. Your label doesn't make that distinction. Okay, this is still about the map. This is all stuff about the map, I guess, which is okay, but maybe I'm not super interested in picking apart the map. Let's see, they're all going on. Oh, here we go. Maybe some more notes. This is by Xenopus of the Xenopus Archives. I think also, right, the publisher of Blueholme, created Blueholme, which I kickstarted and have somewhere. So he's got some notes, I guess, things he's picked out. Air Shark from page 29, which we looked at earlier. There's also an Air Shark in the Ardwin Grimoire, Volume 1, although the descriptive text is different. The only commonalities I see are that each has a bite for 1d8 damage, or 1/8 damage, and floats due to being filled with hydrogen. So possibly inspired by Ardwin, but with an original write-up. He likes that you can encounter 1 to 8 air sharks in town via the city encounters table, Miscellaneous 1 table. Okay, we haven't gotten there yet, so good to know there's a city encounters table coming up. The giant Gila monster, possibly inspired by the 1959 movie of the same name. Also of note is that J. Eric Holmes' later use of a giant Gila monster on a map in his 1981 fantasy RPG book. Felis and Lupus sapiens. These are non-human PCs that come in several forms, ranging from intelligent but otherwise unchanged animals to mostly human. The mixed type bipedal form may be the original idea for Moldvay's Rakasta in Module X1 and X, and Lupin X2 only, and also possibly Schick's Tabaxi in the Fiend Folio. The Wandering Dungeon parties on page 64 contain examples of Felis and Lupus characters. That's cool. I really kind of dig these people who are digging in there and seeing where these things, either looking for the threads that these things came from or seeing the threads that these things had going forward into books that, at the time that these rules were being, or these house rules were being written up, hadn't been written yet. And some of these people were involved in the writings of those books. So it makes sense that the influences would be there. Kzinti, a Felinoid race, even fiercer than Felis sapiens, another possible source for the Rakasta and or the Tabaxi. These are from Larry Niven's Known Space series. Note also the differences between known world and known space. The book Tales of Known Space was published in 1975. Per Schick, the known world name goes back to the original campaign predating their work at TSR. Let's see, what else do we have? And then someone quotes Schick talking about the Rakasta. The Rakasta, introduced in Isle of Dread, were absolutely Tom Moldvay's D&D version of the Kzinti. By the way, the Tabaxi from Fiendfolio were my version of the Kzinti, and Tom and I got them both into D&D and AD&D. So there you go. So we ended up having two. The Kzinti had two sort of offshoots that made it into published stuff. First, the Rakasta from Isle of Dread, and then second, the Tabaxi, who are still alive and kicking in 5th edition. So there we go. Oh, someone mentioned that in Arduin, air sharks were often used as steeds. Maybe it was the same in Imheros. That would have been kind of cool. Let's see. Someone is let's see. What are we looking at here? Okay, so they called it the known world. Let's see. Anything else? We know that the names, they're talking about this known world name. Like, what did they call it back in the day? We know that the name was applied to Moldvay and Schick's world, but it was never applied to any of their work in early Mystara. It could have been used behind the scenes, but the shift in personnel at TSR combined with the complicated history of Mystara and its early products, without anyone steering the direction of the overall product line, makes this rather a hard sell, particularly when you take into account that the very idea of a campaign world wasn't really being spoken about at that time, and especially not in connection with early Mystara. And the name doesn't seem to have been written down anywhere. I think there are two possibilities. One, Frank Mentzer heard the name from Tom Moldvay and or Lawrence Schick and used it in his 1985 master set map, or Frank came up with the name independently and it's just a coincidence. Yeah, I would say the first one seems more likely, and this person says the same thing. One seems more likely, but as I said, the evidence is rather slim. It would be a great thing to ask Frank about directly. And then it being a coincidence seems a bit of a stretch, except that it is, after all, a very generic fantasy name. It's not that generic. I don't feel like everyone's just saying the known world. But I suppose it's possible. Xenopus comes in with some other notes. Killer Trees. These are written up by Moldvay as a new monster of the same name in X2 Castle Amber. The version in the module most closely resembles the Eater subtype, which has tentacles that pull victims into a mouth and in the trunk of the tree. Night Gaunts, a monster adapted from Lovecraft, which makes total sense, may be the source of the death demon in X2, as the Night Gaunt is described by Moldvay as a flying demon, and both write-ups share paralyzing claws. Oh, and Mahar's is... Okay, so someone mentioned that, right? Mahar's from Edgar Rice Burroughs' Hollow Earth stuff, so we get that kind of confirmed. Let's see. More about Mahar's. I wonder if this implies the known world has its own Pellucidar. So Pellucidar is the name in the Hollow Earth setting at this time, or was just an effort to adapt the monster to the setting. I do see Mahars in the flyer column of the Wilderness Wandering Monster table, which we haven't seen yet. So they can be randomly encountered on the surface. Mahars are included on the race table on page 2. Possibly they were included here due to J. Eric Holmes' Mahars of Pellucidar from 1976, which had one inquisitive Mahar scientist join up with the human protagonists. On the other hand, there are a slew of typically antagonistic races included in the race table, such as Balrogs, Trolls, and Minotaurs. So it may have just been an effort to include most of the intelligent races. Also from Burroughs are the Barsoomian creatures, Banths, Tharks, and Thoats, and Apt. Okay, so the Apt is from Barsoom, including some photocopied text, which we noted. These creatures were all listed in optional Arid Plains table in Volume 3 of OD&D. Oh, I didn't even notice. But here there are full write-ups for each of them. White apes from the same OD&D table also appear in several tables here, but without a full write-up, just a few stats. Moldvay would later include a full white ape write-up in his basic rulebook. The stats there are slightly different than here. It's HD4 versus HD3. The other Martian creatures from the OD&D table, Kalots, Urlux, Orlux, Sith, Darsine, are missing here. And then we do get John Carter and Tarzan write-ups as well. And then someone was going through the adventure. Man, I wish more people would be writing this stuff up because I want more info and we don't have it. I want more. I guess we can go take a sort of look. So I was hoping to kind of, part of me wants to stop here. Part of me wants to keep going. Just because I feel like I still got about 25, 30 minutes and there's nothing left in the forums. I mean, I could do a little song and dance, but might as well, we'll just start into volume 3. And well, it won't be so clean and neat. I want to see some tables. Whoops. All right, Dungeon Wandering Monsters table. Here we go. Oh, we get energy fields, first level. So that's an interesting one. You can kind of see them from the side of your eye, right? Having a little bit of a golden glow. We get imps, yellow mold or crimson fungus sturges, poisonous spiders or giant centipedes, typhoid Marys, killer bees, kobolds, goblins, gnomes, orcs, giant rats, dwarves, elves, skeletons, doppelgangers. Oh, those crazy doppelgangers showing up on level 1 potentially. Bandits, brigands, thieves, fighting men, magic users with retinues, clerics with fighters. So I guess this is using the same overall thing, as this is not the role that tells you kind of which things you might do. So you would have this, remember if we're in Walk of the Path says, do what feels right. Remember in OD&D, we'll roll to see kind of which table you roll off of, and there's most of the chance you're going to roll the table that's associated with the level you're on, and there's some chance you might get something from an earlier level if you're, say, on level 2 or level 3, or a higher level. These seem to be just the first level monsters. So, but interesting that we have some more, I don't want to say gonzo, but definitely some more kind of interesting. I don't say, okay, interesting is a bad word. Varied. Having those doppelgangers, the ones that are trying to merge, these crazy doppelgangers trying to rush and merge with people is on level 1. Invisible force fields or almost invisible force fields also on level 1. Is interesting. And you can just magic users and clerics with retinues. Do we know what levels they are? No, we don't. But they're level 1, I'm guessing. Second level. Walking the Path says, imagine having to use a typewriter for your campaign book. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's level 1. Second level, Visions of Panic showing up. Green slime, wandering horse types. Not sure what that. Okay, kind of they have a note here. Centaurs. All right. Sprites, gnolls. These are either easier in dungeons, by the way. I'm not sure how many centaurs want to be hanging out in dungeons. Seems a little, maybe not not best suited to their physiology, but hey, they want to find some treasure. They need to find some loot. Shadow stalkers, carrion crawlers, lions, tigers, wolves, berserkers, thieves, fighting men, more magic users, and then more clerics with. Oh, we had magic users before, so still we get magic users, but now bigger retinues. Energy fields make a comeback. On third level, we get leprechauns, some of those dire corbies, great orcs, Giganthropithicus, giant ants, giant snakes, harpies, whites, kazinti, banshees, ochre jellies, gray oozes or black puddings, hippogriffs, birds of doom, giant wolverines or weasels. Then we get some player character classes. Fourth level, shoggoths, gelatinous cubes, stools, all those hypnoid fungi. Yeah, some of these is interesting because I don't know if I would have them in the dungeon. I feel like the hypnoid fungi, I suppose it's in the, if you had more of an Underdark thing where it felt like there was a natural ecosystem, I could see the fungi there. I mean, you could always make a reason why these fungi are somewhere. There's enough rotting material that they could find. I really like the idea of those in a forest setting more than in the dungeon, but they're really cool, so I'm not mad at them. It's interesting. Some of the other ones, like centaurs, I don't really imagine in the dungeon, but obviously it depends on how kind of interesting or different your dungeon is. We got some of your lycanthropes, automata, so golems of some type, or cyborgs or androids at referee's choice and discretion of Lamier, dust devils, banths, owl bears, displacer bees, blink dogs, phase spiders, giant ticks, will-o-wisps, muck creatures, tharks, minotaurs. Oh, and this one's almost all rubbed out. I can see cockatrices, protein polymorphs. Medusa, is that like a juggernaut? Something, giant slugs. Lamassu. I have to go through there, but unfortunately these are mostly on. The 6th level ones are all wiped out. But we do know the energy fields come back. It's a bit of a bummer. And then is this reprinted? Get 3rd level, 4th level. Oh wait, I guess there was another copy that was duplicated. So once you get to the 5th level, energy fields come back. We get grinder wheels. We get trolls, wraiths, howlers, rust monsters, mind parasites, lurker above, Otyugs, protein polymorphs, night gaunts, muck creatures. 6th level, we get those Tattletails. Wow, they're deep dungeon. Specters, hydras, mangroves, werebears, manicores, umberhulks, juggernauts, ogre magi, will-o-wisps, mahars, bullets, dragons, mummies, ropers, zorns. 6th level dungeon party. Whew. 7th level, we're getting the balrogs, those mercurials that we still don't have a great grip on. Salamanders, actual dragons, catoblepas, sphinxes, neo-otyugs, golems, dreaded black servants, which are those undead or dead and something done to them, dead killed balrogs, groaning spirits. 8th level, we get gorgons, purple orbs, more of those tattletales, more dragons, beholders, liches, blast puppies, those retrievers, coatls, all kinds of demons and devils and nagas, rakshasas, krakens, vulture lions, kirin, superheroes, super magic users. Oh, here we do get the matrix of which levels you're rolling on, I think. So on level 1, you're going to roll a d6. If you're on level 1 of the dungeon, you're going to roll a d6. If you roll 1 or 2, you get dungeons from level 1, or monsters from level 1. 3 or 4, monsters level 2. 5, monsters level 3. And on a 6, monsters level 4. So it's actually, wow. And this is, I don't remember what the original ones were like, so I don't know whether this is like, oh, this is just how it was. I guess the thing that just looking at it now is that you got a really good chance of getting something higher than your level. In that case, you've got a 33% chance of getting something that's a level or a dungeon level 1 monster, and a 66% chance of getting something from at least 1 dungeon level below. And then we get some wandering dungeon parties. These are interesting. Well, this is kind of cool because you're definitely getting a really cosmopolitan dungeon parties here. You have Minotaur. This one has Minotaur Fighter, a bugbear magic user / thief, a goblin fighter, 5, I guess, human fighters, 3 human clerics, 3 human magic users. And we get some F1, F2. What does that mean, F1? I'm not sure. But those are really kind of cool, different, just really different ideas of what a party looks like. It's, these are not your, oh, look, there's a couple of humans and an elf and a dwarf and maybe this is, you got a whole, it's kind of like a minotaur, a bugbear, a goblin, and a couple of humans walk into a bar. I mean, it's really a different looking party, which is really cool. And it feels very modern. This feels like the kind of thing that the kind of parties people are making in 5th edition once they've got all the books, like that Magic the Gathering crossover book and some of the other books where you have playable PC classes for minotaurs and things. This is totally up that alley, right? But we're in 1976. I mean, of course, the white books, the white box, the brown books did say, hey, play what you want, and people talked about playing all kinds of crazy things like Balrogs in those original games. But I don't think I've seen. I know someone, I forget the guy's name, who played in Gygax's game, who played a Balrog, but I haven't seen what that looks like, the stats for that particular version. But we kind of have something here. Clearly they were doing it. This 2nd level party has an elf, a Formican, which is that ant person, a mangrove, a hobgoblin, 3 fighters, 2 clerics, 1 thief, 1 magic user thief, 1 magic user. Is that instead of these, or is that a whole party? Maybe that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. So this is a 12-person party, which I think back in the day was not unusual with hirelings and stuff. So maybe that's where that comes from. 3rd level party is kind of vanilla. 6 fighters, 2 clerics, 2 magic users, 1 magic user thief, and 1 thief. But no idea. No, they don't mention the species, so I'm guessing those are humans. 4th level party. Hobbit, Lizard Man, 6 fighters, 2 clerics, 2 magic users. That was the 4th level. 5th level. Oh, this is the 4th level still. More about that. The 5th level. A Turtle Man, Dwarf Fighters, 6 fighters, 3 magic users. Was that the 5th? Okay, yeah, that was the 5th. Now 6th. Elf, magic user, and elf thief. 5 fighters, 2 magic users, 1 cleric, 1 magic user thief. 7th level, you get a troglodyte fighter, an elf cleric, a lupus sapiens cleric. 7 fighters, 2 magic users. 8th level, 1 fighter, a felis fighter, an elf magic user, 5 fighters, 2 magic users, 2 clerics. Now we get to the wilderness. Ding dong. Wilderness girls. And these, I'm not sure. I don't have the other books in front of me to know how different these are from the ones that were in the books. Still, it's cool to see. What you would do is you would check. You could roll to be lost, and then you would 3 times. I'm not sure what the encounter part means, because generally in the I want to say in the book 3 in the white box they were on D6 tables, so you would have clear, 1 to get lost would be 1 and 6, and then encounter might be 1 and 2 and 6. I'm not sure what the 3 times, 6 times, 6 times, 9 times thing is, and I don't know what the parentheticals mean when it says 20 parentheticals. But then if you decide that there is an encounter, you would roll a D12, check which hex you're in, go down the list, and okay, you got roll 1 or 2, it's men, that's non-humans, it's flyers, animals, dragons, and you keep going kind of down the list, and then you could scroll down to get details on the men. This looks straight out of the kind of Judges Guild, including having these crazy lines to break up the weird way these tables are laid out on the pages. I wouldn't be surprised. I wonder if that is from Dragons Only, not Dragon Class. All right. Obviously, there's important enough a note that not only is it there with an asterisk to apply to something, but they underline dragon, and then they underline it down here so that if you encounter a dragon, it's not a dragon class, it is a dragon. And then, once you figure out what kind of thing you get, whether it's man, non-human, flyer, whatever, then you would come down and roll here on this other list to see what you get. And once you get on this list, I think the interesting thing about it is notice these lists are all 20-sided dice, and effectively you have the same odds, essentially, of any one of these items. So some of these, on the non-humans, they've doubled up elves and dwarves. So you have a 10% chance of encountering elves, 10% chance of encountering dwarves. Everything else, 5% chance. Whether it's Kzinti, hobbits, Starks, centaurs, lizardmen, ogres, trolls, ogre magi, these odds are not really weighted in terms of the difficulty level or the power strength level of the creature. You got it, and once you get into flyers, undead, you can see that there's no repetition really. So you get on to miscellaneous 1. You could find a banshee, you could find jackalwares, you could find a foxwoman, you could find a minotaur, could find a displacer beast, a shoggoth, any one of those, equal chance. Miscellaneous 2, oh yeah, Balrog, beholders, those mercurials, umberhulks, gorgons, bullets, catoblepas, rakshasas, all the same, remoras, gods. Down there, number 18, you've encountered a god. Or a medusae, same percent chance, which, as a player, you kind of want to take that in and say, okay, the wilderness is rough. I don't want to go out in the true wilderness unless I have to, and then I want to be going quickly. Here's that city encounters table that was brought up earlier. What kind of stuff do we get in the city? So it's mostly men. So we got a 60% chance of men, 20% chance of some kind of non-human, 1% chance or 10% chance of something undead, and a 10% chance of something miscellaneous. And then if it is undead, it's the same as a dungeon wandering monster, but with half the number appearing. If you get into miscellaneous, I'm not sure what you check with miscellaneous, whether it's miscellaneous 1 or 2. I'm not seeing how you're supposed to make that adjustment. But you don't want the miscellaneous table. I'm thinking, I don't really want that. Because you could have a Balrog show up in the city. We're not out in the middle of nowhere. We are in the city, and you could have a Balrog. Hey, 1 to 3 Balrogs. Not just 1 to 3. 3 Balrogs walking down the street. A couple Umber Hulks, some trolls. 1 to 3 Medusae. Yeah, I don't think I want that. A couple of demons or devils, some... There we go again. Roll a 20, and gods have appeared on the street. Yes. Lycanthropes, ogre, magi, and the like will 5 out of 6 times be in human form when in the city, so not to risk exposure. The more intelligent monsters will often have been smuggled to the city for religious or even less savory reasons. Savory. Flyer types often just stupidly fly in. Of course, carrion crawlers, giant rats, etc. occasionally come out of the sewers. Non-humans can generally come and go almost as they please as long as they restrict themselves to the foreigners' quarter. Well, that's good to know that there's a foreigners' quarter where they can hang out. So there you go. So they may very well not be combat simply because they're in disguise. And I mean, maybe part of that encounter is maybe you notice them. We get a whole big list of wilderness wandering monsters with just some really abbreviated stat blocks. Not going to go through them all. Because they're using, here we go. Here's some kind of interesting stuff here. Apparently, according to these notes, in the original known world, per these Bill Wilkerson docs, they're using 25-mile hexes, clear terrain. An armored man can move 12.5 miles per day or half a hex. An unarmed man can move 25 miles per day or 1 hex. That's really not that far off the kind of numbers I was using, so that kind of makes me feel old school or just old. I'll have to kind of lay into these numbers a bit. We got all kinds of numbers for heavy horses, light horses, griffins, hippogriffs, pegasi. Let's see, flyers. Same as clear, but no communication with the ground party. That's an important thing to note. Mountains or swamps, no heavy or medium horses. A light horse with no armor or a mule can move a bit. Armored man takes 4 days a hex now, and an unarmed man takes 2 days a hex. So yeah, it definitely slows down. In desert, you can move as clear terrain. Horses and mules die on the second day with a 1 out of 6 chance. Third day with a 1 in 3, etc. that they go without water. Camels can go up to 15 days without water. Each day a man in the desert is without water. He moves at half the distance of the previous day. On the 4th day, he dies on a 1. 5th day on a 1 in 3. 6th day on a 1 in 5. I might give them a save, which is probably, it's kind of interesting because on that first day, or say the 4th day, the first time they have to make a save, you want to have the 1 in 6 chances better than your save, if you're low level, anyway. But then it gets exceedingly worse. Encumbrance, which people were saying where they were actually shocked a little bit in the that forum by how it seemed to kind of add up pretty well. 1 pound is equal to 30 gold piece weight. Again, we have a character race chart. Definitely skews towards human, but you do have a chance of being anything. We have a monster hit and damage. Just kind of cool. I mean, for house rules for a game doc, it's not really it's not interesting to read through because it's just a bunch of hit stats. But from a usability standpoint, this is perfect because I've rolled a random encounter. Oh, there's a cloud giant. Okay, I can just look them up really quick and say, okay, cloud giant's got a club, hurls rocks, and here I got the damage for that. So bam, got it. I mean, I probably want to look up another version of this that has their stat block and their hit points, but it's kind of cool. You just really get some information really quick. And man, yeah, somebody had to type this stuff out by hand, which must have been fun. It's been so long since I had to use typewriters to actually do anything serious. All right, so this is where I will stop. Wow, I didn't think I would make it through there. Granted, I kind of blew by some of the overly stat things, but I don't think they're interesting. You know, hey, if you want to go through some of those stat blocks line by line, check out the link to the forums that I've posted in the show notes and elsewhere. You can go in there, you can grab the things, you can read through them, and really go, glyph by glyph, each letter form. But we made it through books 2 and 3. I don't know why I keep refreshing this, like there's magically going to be more things posted. Well, let's take a look at that map. People have been talking about this map. I know we looked at it briefly yesterday. It's going. Maybe I should open up another. Let's see, what's this? Oh, this is for this other. So there's another element to this, which wasn't put into this PDF because I think they were worried about copyright issues, because apparently this dungeon, which someone made this map for, was submitted to a contest to TSR, and part of that contest was if you submitted it, you essentially were handing over copyright to it. So, of course, putting it in the PDF, they thought it might ending up in some kind of copyright issues. I mean, I can't imagine Wizards of the Coast caring at this point, but to be safe, they did. But we can take a look at this map. I definitely do want to look at that adventure at some point, so we can get a little teaser from it. I'm guessing there's some magic happening in here. We have a long corridor to nowhere, some kind of something doorway or something over there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little square rooms on each side that are just out in space. I'm guessing it's some kind of, maybe there's a teleporter or something that's where you're getting from that long corridor into those rooms. Really interesting. I wonder what app is this in? Yeah, so this is from a dungeon that was submitted as a contest back in the late 70s. We are getting spoiled, but I don't mind that. So some takeaways from with this person, and this person is Mike. Some notes about these rooms. The rooms are large. Some of these rooms are bizarrely large. The 110-foot long room in the west is basically a huge room where monsters are birthed. I think the entire dungeon will be filled with them by now, or maybe they kill each other in the room. The 50 by 50 room south of the circle of 10 by 10 rooms, the party meets a human there and he gives them a very short message. Why is it 50 by 50? It's a good question. Except the 10 by 10 rooms. Spoiler, how the heck did a magic user in this edition of the game survive what's here? No idea. If you aren't familiar with the rules, they use random die for hit points. Random, 1d4. So I don't know what's in those 10 by 10 rooms, but certainly it seems nasty. This should be a fun, definitely an old school. I mean, it looks old school. And definitely looks like something that came from someone's graph paper, because everything is basically squared up. And as someone I remember as a kid making maps with graph paper, you just kind of gravitate towards lots of squared off stuff because it's just the easiest to do, and I didn't have lots of tools to fiddle around with curves and things like that. So it's like, just make it square. I mean, look, building, most stuff is usually squared off anyway, so it's not like it doesn't make sense. Can I see this bigger? Let me zoom in. Whoop. No. I don't know if that's bales of hay. What app is this, I wonder? Oh, definitely needs to be interesting. It'll be cool to dig into that at some point once we get through the rest of it. All right, folks, any last thoughts before I call this a stream and pull the proverbial plug? Oh, so they did end up moving this to Mystara. Interesting. Where did they put it? Where did they stick it? Oh, here it is. I don't even know if I'm going to be a member here, and I just haven't been here in forever. Well, there's a bunch of Mystara stuff in here if you want. If you're a fan of Mystara. All right. Well, nobody's got anything going on. So, folks, thanks for those of you who stuck around for the whole time. Hopefully, we found it worth your watching and listening time. On your way out, if you could give the stream a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. If you happen to not be subscribed in here, go ahead and subscribe. That would help me out. Awesome. Also, but other than that, have a great rest of your day, night, weekend, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on. I will talk to you later. Good night, everybody.